well, I want to say no, I said no, just, sorry about that. Yes, thank you. But as she did mention, the program does give extensive support. They have mentors that does come out from the department, and they are experts in their field. And it's just really a tremendous, much more of a support than you get when you're just going through an education program at a university when you're student teaching. But we're very pleased with the people that complete it.
I know I've had oftentimes, you know, a lot of people graduate from college and have a degree and they find that they can't be employed for whatever reason. And I've had a lot of people call me or ask me, and I'd like to get into that program they have, but it's limited in.
It is limited.
Isn't it? That's what I've always advised them to talk to you all, and they found that you just can't get in because you want it. It has to meet certain criteria.
Yes, there is a specific set of criteria that they must follow.
It's good when you have local people with degrees and they can get in, because in all likelihood they're going to remain with you.
Yes.
All right, anything else from anybody? Okay, then we'll go to Dana Smith, maintenance update, Dana. You've been back in the corner getting ready, it's like a bullpen or something.
Yeah, everybody's left on me again. Everybody that could leave. Well, start out with some good news. Since we talked last, we've had a state facilities review, which is the State Department of Education Facilities Department. And what they do is they inspect all SBA funded needs projects, new school needs projects that the SBA has funded, which includes our 4 schools, Harts, the new school, West Hamlin, Lincoln County High School, and Hamlin Middle School. And Ms. Lucas got a copy of the report, and it was quite nice. So they look at everything, but probably they focus more on the preventive maintenance, heating and cooling type issues, probably more so than they do anything. And they were well pleased with how we're keeping their facilities that have been funded by the school building authority maintained.
So is that the criteria, that when they look at the ones where they've given money?
Yes, needs projects. For example, Hamlin Middle School was a $2.3 or $4 million project, which included the HVAC system, windows, roof, and of course the new school at Lincoln County, Harts, and then West Hamlin was practically a new school. They didn't keep a whole lot of that building when that was built. So that's the 4 they look at. Update on the Lincoln County High School ramp. There's been an extension given to the Powell Construction Company. They've been given to the end of June due to the rainy weather that we've had. Approximately 75% of the ramp area is done, but as of yesterday, they hadn't started on the steps yet, but it looks like it's going well. Any questions about the ramp?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Is there a landing area near the soccer
Yes,
field?
it's at the soccer field.
Okay, so that's
the
where-
landing
where
for
it terminates.
wheelchair,
Correct.
for those in wheelchairs.
Super.
And we'll cross that road, there'll be yeah, when it gets to the bottom, there'll be a pathway to that landing.
Correct.
Okay, there was, Ms. Lucas wanted me to talk about a Mason and Berry project. I think someone had gotten a message or something left behind. So I don't know exactly what the message said, but the project I think they were referring to, I'll just go back from to the beginning and describe what happened on that project. This goes back to 2011. And this was a project, if I've got the right one.
Dana, let me, Mr. Baker had a comment here. Okay.
Let me just tell you what the concern was, and
Okay.
maybe you can jump right to it.
Okay, maybe I can
Um,
forget about the history. Okay.
Right, yes.
Okay.
There was a phone message left on a citizen's phone. They asked me to listen to the message, and basically the substance of the message was from it was a message that should have been left for you.
Mhm.
And the message was from a contractor saying, we have some extra money because we didn't use as many doors on the project as we thought we were going to need. What are we gonna do with the extra money? Something like that.
Okay.
And that's the crux of the issue. I don't know if that helps you narrow your answer or
I
not.
think I'm gonna have to give you the full story to
Okay.
describe it, so
All right.
sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Because the PO originally done was for $8,476. And this was done on 12/15/2011. But the PO was done for Lincoln County High School, and it's for intrusion detection. We have intrusion detection at this school. It goes along with the safety access security system. And what this does, it will notify you if a door, exterior door, has been opened, which could allow somebody unauthorized to come in the building rather than going through the main doors. That's what the intrusion detection does. And originally, Mr. Ryan Sachs was the principal at Lincoln County High School at that time, and he wanted this at his school at the time we did the purchase order. When they came to install the intrusion detection, I don't know if somebody changed his mind or what happened, but he decided he didn't want it. So, the money was gonna run out, so we looked at another school that would want the intrusion detection. And that became Hamlin Middle School and Hamlin Grade School. And at the time, the money was running out, so we wrote a couple checks, one to Mason and Berry, for the SBA share of the money, not the county's share, which was $4,200. And we wrote a check to Armstrong Telephone Company for, gosh, 25,000 or something. Because those projects weren't gonna get done in time for the SBA wanted all their paperwork. So we went ahead and wrote the checks and put them in the vault, and then when the job was to be done, they were supposed to get their money. Well, the check for Armstrong did stay in the vault for some reason or other. The Mason and Berry check got sent, which was the SBA portion of the $8,000. Well, when we did the Hamlin Elementary and Middle School project, it's a smaller school, so the project at Hamlin was $5,000. So Mason and Berry already has a $4,200 check. So the county's balance was $1,800 and some odd dollars. So what we did is we canceled the purchase order for the $8,476. The remaining amount went into my account, the county portion, and we redid a purchase order for the $1,800 and some odd dollars to finish Hamlin Middle and Grade School. I don't intend on spending the other $3,000, so that won't be spent. And that's still in the county budget. Of course, in the meantime, they were slow getting the job done, so I held a $7,200 check on another project from them to get them out there to do that, because it had lingered along, long enough. And this was a project Joe Parsons was doing at West Hamlin that they did the work on, but I held the check so that they could get the work done at Hamlin, because they just dragged on and dragged on. But it's been done. We still owe them our portion, the county portion of the $1,800, and we've got a PO, and they finally sent us an invoice for that amount. The other $3,000 will just stay where it's at. That's the question.
Yeah, that's it.
Does that explain it? Well, I'm sorry, I had to give you a long story, but I didn't know how to shorten it.
Well, we talked about it, and he went through the whole thing, and I said, I don't know, Dana, maybe you have to tell them the whole story in order to.
I thought I did. Sorry.
That was fine.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about summer projects now. Mrs. Lucas wanted me to just highlight some of the things we're gonna plan to do with the schools. Of course, Harts doesn't need a whole lot. They're wanting some touch-up painting, and that's about all they're wanting, other than some playground pieces fixed that we may have trouble getting parts for, and they want some additional mulch on their playground, which won't be a problem. I do want to mention, if you remember, we wrote a letter to the school building authority on some things that were left undone at that school. There's still some things left undone at that school. The safety access, which leads to the playground, those doors have still not got the equipment on. And they never changed the signs for the classrooms. Remember, they put the wrong numbers on them, didn't do what we told them to do, and that still hasn't been done. So you may want to give me some guidance on where to, we want to send another letter to.
We talking about one vendor or more than one?
More than one.
When they issue at the front doors too, Dan, at the entrance, the cars wouldn't work or something?
They work at the front entrance. There is a door at the electric room that's not working, and there's a door at the end of the building that used to work for me that's not working now. And that's just been kind of recent.
I thought there was an issue, we might even have changed doors or something.
I still think that that's probably why it hasn't been done, because they installed some doors that didn't work well with that equipment. And I still think that's a problem, and I still think that maybe that's why it still hasn't been done.
How many doors, Dana, are we talking now?
Oh, gosh. I know the two at the end of the building were the playground. Those are the two most critical. I don't think that the door at the library is working, and there's a lot of in and out there at the library. Probably shouldn't be because it's carpeted, but there is a lot of in and out there. But the two that would be most urgent would be at the playground.
Yeah, I was thinking there were only 3 or no more than 4.
Because a lot of times those classrooms will go out the back door, leave their door open so they can get back in, or they'll prop a door open. That's not good. It just needs to be done. I just wanted to remind you, it still hasn't been. Now, we did see a change order come through that I think Ms. Lucas got a copy of it that was supposed to address that issue.
That was pretty recent, wasn't it?
No, I think that's been quite a while back.
Well, I was going to say, when I say recent, a couple months.
I think it's been longer than that.
Was it?
I think it's been longer. The time, I don't know, getting old.
Do you
It
remember,
does get
Bertie?
away.
No, I don't. That's why I was trying to think if I got a copy of it. I don't. Doesn't mean I didn't. I don't recall.
I recall seeing it, and I believe I brought you a copy of it. I don't know that I did bring you a
Yeah,
copy.
okay. Like I said, it doesn't mean that I did, but I just.
But this door issue, does this involve just one vendor, or does it involve more than one?
Depends on whether there's a door issue or not. It could involve the company that installed the doors, if they didn't install the right doors.
Right.
It would, it's an Andover system, so it could include Mason and Berry on the programming and the software side of it. But the installer was the electric company. They were the ones that were supposed to install the door strikes. So, it could involve 3 companies. But the change order was done to the electric company. It was supposed to originally install the door strikes. It's complicated.
Okay, well, we're aware of it.
Still not done. I just want you to know. Okay, Rangers not got a lot of needs. They're wanting their kitchen painted and some exterior painting done. Some ceiling tiles placed, just minor stuff. Pine Valley's major. We've got some walk replacements that we're wanting to do there. We've done a phase of that. We'd like to do another phase this summer, but that's a time consuming and Not so pricey, but time consuming especially. They want some hallways painted, we've got junk that needs to be hauled away, but nothing we can't handle. West Hamlin, they're wanting some painting done, and they're wanting to remodel a special needs stall. Lincoln County High School, they're wanting to put sealer on some of the flooring, especially classroom areas. They're wanting some painting done, but that's painting that their staff is gonna do, not the paint crew. The athletic fields, the things that I have planned there are, soccer's primary objective right now seems to be electric, so I've got the electrical supplies ordered to pick their electric up from the baseball field and run it to their concession stand.
Are they gonna have a new concession stand? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know where there's any money for that. They're using an existing storage building right now. But I will fix it so that we can move that electric to a permanent building if they ever get funding for the building of something permanent, out of block. and
Isn't there a
concrete.
concession stand in close proximity to that?
Yeah, it's right there at the fence.
Now, you're using about going to the baseball field, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it's in between the two, I suppose, isn't
What they're using right now is a storage, they've got two storage buildings on site. One of them's got a big window that faces a soccer field. It's right against the fence. It's a wood structure with a barn-type roof on it. That's what they're using now, and we'll temporarily put their electric in that building. And we'll fix it till we can move it to a permanent structure, which he wants nearby, which would be their place.
Who's he?
Well, the person I've been talking to is Dallas. He seems to be gonna be the girls' coach left.
Brittany left.
So I
I
primarily
think Dallas is
thought-
thinking of taking it again.
I've got a question, or maybe you can answer it. Why keep a building construction class build a concession stand?
I don't know of any reason they couldn't.
Has anyone requested, or I
I
don't know
would
if they
request
could?
to the storage building, they wouldn't build that, I just wanted to build a concession stand.
That's an excellent question. That we're currently in a process of taking block out of the mechanical rooms at Lincoln County High School. Tons of block and 2x6s. And, because the fire marshal, we got a new fire marshal in town, he wore us out. And he wants all the storage out of that mechanical rooms at Lincoln County High School amongst other places. And so all that's coming out. We're working on it now. We're bringing all the maintenance things, all those chairs that they had stored in those mechanical rooms, they're now in this brown building out back. You know, I told the fire marshal I'd wait till graduation before I moved all those bad boys. They're out there. So we're currently moving other things, and I don't know of any reason why they
So
couldn't.
you're telling us
do
that most of the materials that would be needed to build this are gonna be there?
It's
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm
doing,
saying.
block building, yes.
So it's just a matter.
And if they needed some additional block or something, I would, if they had the volunteers or the labor to put that up, we could contribute to that. Or I would contribute with my budget to
Well, I
that.
think what Mr. Curry's saying, we've got students that need to learn a trade, what
Yeah.
better way to build a
Absolutely.
building?
Absolutely.
I understand the instructor, that's his profession, block learning.
That is correct.
Maybe Mrs. Lucas could talk to Mr. Snyder, who could talk to the instructor, to see if they can get this done.
I
I
think
think
I'll
that
go
would
over
be
there
good.
and talk to them together.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes, right.
Okay.
But that would be an ideal situation, would be to put it in a permanent building.
Well, that would
Temporarily, we'll do what?
Right. But I think what Fred's saying here, when you have a class and you're trying to get students to learn a particular trade, what better way to learn than hands-on? And it would help us or help the class and the students both, and soccer and everything else.
The majority of the materials are already available.
Yeah, I mean, just Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome. The other current thing that we're working on is drainage for the future band field. That purchase order is floating around here somewhere. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Ernie. I don't know where it's at, getting signatures at.
Now, is this for the?
Band.
Right, what particular, what's on this PO?
18-inch plastic pipe to go where that ditch is that drains that field.
That's a couple hundred feet, you say?
A couple hundred feet, 220, 230 feet. And the dozer's already at the football facility working, so as soon as we can get the drainage pipe in, then we can move that dozer to the band field next. That's the plan. Of course, they're wanting some parking lines. There are several schools wanting lines for their parking areas, so we're looking at that maybe with the grounds crew this summer. Hamlin, they're wanting some painting done. Of course, they'd like to have their gym floor done, refinished. And they're wanting lines on the parking lot. And our roof bids will be here this week. So by the next meeting, I'll be able to have something on the agenda to approve the roof at Hamlin Grade School. That'll be the most expensive some of the project we've got going at this time.
Dana, I'm not sure, I haven't been over there to look, but I did have a complaint about entering Hamlin Gym wheelchair accessible, that they couldn't, that place wasn't marked off for them to get a wheelchair through, and cars were parked in front, and they were unable to get the wheelchair in there. I don't know, do we have a place marked, like an access board?
We do, we have a handicap there.
It's there. I haven't been over there to look, but she said they were parked right in front and she couldn't get the wheelchair in.
I thought we did, but I'll double check just to make sure something hadn't been taken down. or-
Somebody just probably parked out of
There's
order.
a big space actually marked off for handicap, and
There's
no
an
one,
elevator right there too.
and no
Yeah.
one's supposed to be in the other section part.
And now somebody may have parked there.
That's
Just
probably
pulled up, it's
what
probably-
Could have been
happened.
another handicapped person, or it could have been someone who wasn't handicapped. Just wanted the park closed.
Okay. Duval, we've got some exterior and interior painting planned there. She's wanting to hang a digital sign at some point in time. She's wanting us to do that. We need to put a new gas line and new meter in at the school that takes care of the two-story heat for the building closest to the post office. So we're gonna plan that this summer. We've got a bridge that needs refloored. It's got wood boards on it. We've had a couple of incidences recently. So we need to refloor that with something. We've got a couple of things we're thinking about. We've got some donated pipe. I tend to lean towards grading. I think it'll add less weight to the bridge, and we could, from a labor standpoint, we could do it much quicker as far as welding the pipe or welding the grading to the bridge. So I'm leaning towards grading myself, even though the pipe's donated. But me and Mrs. Lucas will talk about that in the morning. But that's something that needs to be done this summer. And we've got some bleacher repairs that I want to schedule this summer for their gym. At Midway, mostly just paint.
Excuse me, Dave.
Okay.
Do you have a request for replacing the front sidewalk?
At this time, I did it one time, but she's not requested that at this time. Of course, we did seal the cracks, and
That's, I
I'm sorry, but that is a terrible eyesore and we need a new walk.
Yeah, that would
So
be
I'm
nice.
I'm making a request for it.
Okay. Okay.
Look into that for us, Leroy.
I've looked at, I've actually measured it, and what I was gonna do at the time, that was Ken's priority at the time, was take those steps out and put a long ramp in there and delete the steps. And put it at an incline all the way down through there so that it would be handicap accessible, so that you wouldn't have to use that ramp on the end of the building. So I had some plans kind of made for that. I felt like Guy Valley's walks were worse.
Well, it could be, I'm not saying they're not, but I know the walkway going in Duval is, it's a disgrace as far as I'm concerned.
How far are we talking about here, from the fence all the way up to the?
Well, pretty much all the way up.
For me to do it and make it look right with a ramp, I'd have to go all the way up to their landing, from the fence, from the parking lot to the landing.
Or the only one set of steps, I can't.
There's one set of steps, and it's closer to the landing than it is the road or the parking lot, and there's probably 8 steps. But I did figure out that if we started our ramp, like about halfway between the parking lot and the existing steps, and I could make a ramp all the way to the landing, and it would be handicap accessible. Because you only need to raise, for every 12 foot, you need to have a rise of a foot. So there's plenty of room there to make it accessible for the handicap. And those steps are hideous also.
But not as
I agree
bad as-
with you.
But not as bad as a walk. Pitiful.
I don't know, they're both pretty bad. I mean, they're both bad. But I really thought the Guy Valley situation
It
was
was
more
bad.
hideous. Especially where they loaded buses and you had part of the steps that was raised above the area that you walked, which was a very bad trip hazard. The Guy Valley was in bad shape.
Well, it was great to get them done and move on to the next thing.
They've still got some really bad ones,
You know more about what the priority should be as far as safety and things like that than we do, but
so. Yeah, that would have been Guy Valley. But I agree with you, they look bad. And I tried to make them look better and eliminate the trip hazards, and they never did get it sealed. They were going to put, in fact, I got the sealer back there, 2 seal boots, the blacktop, but it's not gotten done. Snowing's wore us out.
since we're talking about Duval, what about, we hear things about the sewage system over there. Is there, or do we have a problem? Do we have any?
Well, yeah, there's several problems. Anytime you've got a sewer plant, you've got problems,
I mean,
especially when it's close to the road.
Well, is all of it related to that sewer plant or some of it in the modular building? Is it different?
Modular's different. What we did at the modulars is put a lift station in. And that's not a good situation. It's got grinder pumps in it, and it's a little fiberglass tank that you see in front there that's fenced in. And things go in there that shouldn't. And it causes the grinder pumps to not operate or get hung up, which makes it, if the grinder pumps don't work, then it fills up and it can leak out. And what you've been doing is basically you have a holding tank there with grinder pumps and a pump that pumps it to the sewer line, and then it's gravity fed to the sewer plant.
Do we have any, are you planning to do anything at all within either one of those this summer? I mean,
Any day, the sewer plant could collapse. When you're looking at a couple $100,000 for a new sewer plant for Duval and Midway, and any day, either one of them could go. We're on borrowed time. They're in excess of 30 years old. That's the reason I don't spend all my capital improvement monies, is because one or both of them could go before I can retire.
if one went out, what's the time to get it replaced?
Well, you could do it over a summer. You
Well,
could
that's
do
what
it
I'm saying, so if you're during the school term and it goes out, you gotta.
You'd have to pump, you'd have to do some temporary things to get through the school year if it of course, you could do some temporary welding. There's some things that maybe you could do depending on how bad or how much of the plant collapsed. But it's leaning and it's, I mean, it needs replaced. But if we were to get a new school, that would eliminate replacing both sewer plants, which is what we had hoped for, but maybe we can hope again.
Good luck on that one. But Midway has the same situation. Is
Midway has a similar
who's-
problem.
Which is worse, Duval or Midway? Are they both real bad?
They're both real bad.
Same car.
And they both stink. Of course, basically what a sewer plant does is it stirs, it adds air, and when you stir it, the old saying is, the more you stir it, the more it stinks. And they just shouldn't be real close to the school, at least downwind. And even when they're operating well, they tend to have odors.
That's, I mean, we've heard numerous times about things with that. And I realize at the modular building that things get thrown in there and create part of that.
The one in Harts has some bad odors too. If you remember, we put a fiberglass top on the section, the first section of what's called the EQ section of that sewer plant to try to eliminate some of the odors there. They took some shortcuts on the plant, eliminated some things that it needed to operate properly. And which that's common when you're looking at big money, and they're big money.
So right now, you don't have any plans, immediate plans to replace either one of them, but if need be, you would have some funds that can be used on
Yes.
one of them.
I'll have $200,000 after July 1 that I'm gonna save for that rainy day in case we need to do something. We can't get a school or we can't do what needs to be done, so.
Do you still have $200,000?
I've got this roof coming, that's gonna come out of that. So, I'll have to,
But you know you'll get $200,000.
I know I'm gonna get 200,000 July 1.
Well, you know, we don't know all your priorities and everything. You all have to sit down and look at all the greatest needs and prioritize them, but I'm sure that
Well,
should
when
be
it
able to
comes to
do.
those two sewer plants, I just keep hoping that if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing, because
Some people think it's broke.
they're all broke. They're all broke. Ranger's horrible sometimes, you go up there and, probably not telling you anything you don't know.
Not telling me anything I don't know.
Sewer plants,
That's heard about.
city sewer is the way to go if you can go there. But that's not an option for Harts, Ranger, or Duval or Midway. Okay, we've got some gutters ordered for Midway. Hopefully that'll be done this summer, because I'm putting off some painting until some of the gutters and downspouts are replaced, because water's getting on the block, which is causing the paint to peel. So as soon as that job's done, we'll get back to painting some of those exterior block on Midway's building. And that's about all I have, unless you guys have something you want to talk about. Oh, filter.
Well, before you get off the summer projects, what I want to let the board know is I had requested that Mr. Smith meet with each principal and go down their list of things that they wanted taken care of this summer, the projects, and try to give it in a list prioritized. Also, when each principal came in and met with Mr. McKiff and myself when we were going over their evaluations, I asked specifically for them to give me a list And then Mr. Smith and I got together and we compared lists, because, you know, sometimes as they're talking to one or the other, they may add something, or, you know, they just forget. So we have gone over this list together. Some of the things he had, I did, and some of the things they'd mentioned to me, they had mentioned to him. So we have come up with a list, you know, for from both of us. And we've talked today about the prioritizing what is most needy for each place and how we need to go about addressing each of these areas of need from the principals. But it also told them that once they got back to their schools, or whenever they had some more time to think about, if they wanted to shoot me an email or call me if there's something that they would like for us to add to the list, and we would be happy to do so. But, you know, we only have a certain amount of time, certain number of people, so many dollars. So what we are trying to do is look at the issues that's most needed at each school. So just wanted you all to know that we have.
And now, so on these, if they have these, they don't necessarily submit these on school bid?
They will submit, they will continue to submit these on
I
school
mean,
bid.
but some of these things where you all met with them, they haven't necessarily.
If they don't, I'll put it in for them. If it's
Yeah, I was gonna
something
say,
big.
some of these they have not yet,
No.
but they will go ahead and just.
If they don't, I will. We'll try to get it in there.
And also, with some of the schools, they have summer programs in the buildings, and some of the painting may not be able to occur right at a certain point in time. We have to schedule when those students are not within those classrooms if they've requested, so.
Okay, any question about summer projects? Okay.
Okay, you wanted to talk about
Filters. Okay. Of course, currently, we're using Charleston filter to replace the filters. They use a metal racks with a filter media. We've changed the filters in all these locations, so we have a pretty good idea of what it takes to do it. Originally, the first contract that they actually got was at West Hamlin Elementary, which was probably 11, 12 years ago. That's the first school that they had under contract. And as you see there, they charge us $8 a filter for the 10 by 72 by 1, which is a MERV 8 filter. And we originally were using a pleated filter that we changed ourselves for a couple of years. The pleated filter that we were buying cost more than them changing the filter and using the metal racks with the filter media. So we thought we'd try that out, and it worked out well. The units have stayed clean. They do it once a month, just like we did with the pleated filter, and they have for numerous years. As we've added new schools, Lincoln County High School, or the new units at Hamlin, we changed the filters, used the pleated filters for the first year, and then we added those schools to Charleston Filters contract. There again, pleated filters are usually more expensive than what they'll do them, and they're changing them, and we don't have to change them. So that's our rationale for contracting out. Of course, there are several options other than those options. But if we do go back to buying pleated filters, there's a storage issue. They take up a lot of room. And the reason I put the new schools on this contract cost issues are those are the 4 big users of the commercial type filters. And the filters that I highlighted or put a price on are the filters most used at that location. In other words, there's 9 different sizes of filters at Lincoln County High School, but I picked out 2 that were most commonly used there. And the quote that I gave you is a quote that I just received today, because that's the only company I could find that would give me all these different filters, including the unit ventilators. And as you see there, each school has a different brand of equipment, different sizes of filters, and different type of equipment. You go from air handlers to unit ventilators to rooftop units. And of course, the other schools that aren't on this list pretty much have the same thing. But there are options. If we didn't buy the frames, the metal frames, Charleston Filter put in the metal frames as we gave them schools, so they own them. We've never paid for them. He's willing to sell us the metal frames. He's willing to sell us the fabric if we want to change them. And those costs are on the far right there. If we want to continue using the filter media, he's willing to sell the fabric pre-cut for each school for $24,976 a year. And he'll sell us the frames at a cost of $7,433.
That'd be a one-time charge.
That'd be a one-time charge for the frame. The $24,976 is the annual charge for the filter media.
That's pre-cut, right?
That's pre-cut.
But we could cut it ourselves.
Why can't we buy roll and cut it ourselves down?
You could. That's another option.
It's option number 2, right? Or 3, is it option
And
3?
can you not buy through Risa, Trish?
That he checked, because it's Granger, you said,
Granger's,
is on the RESA
Now
contract.
I cannot find a filter in the Granger's catalog that would take care of West Hamlin or Hamlin. But they would have all these, well, I didn't look at the filter media. They may have filter media that I could buy at Granger's that we could cut and use at West Hamlin. But they don't have the pleated filters at Granger's. So that's possible. We could buy filter media and cut it ourselves for those schools too. I didn't look at that. I haven't yet.
Let me ask this, I mean, I don't see, what are we currently paying per year to have them supply the filters and change them as compared to this cost of, well, what I see is $32,500 a year for the cut fabric and the frames. And then you have labor on top of that. It's $55,000 a year to supply the pleated filters for these schools. What are they charging us a year to supply the filters and change them?
$31,473.
We paid them $40-something last year. Where'd that extra come in at?
We paid them $34,000 for the filter contract, which included, they put tablets. They have a different charge for putting drain pan tablets. And if we paid them $40,000, we probably paid them to do some coil cleaning or some work that was outside the filter contract. If we paid them a total of $40,000 for the year, then that's going to include some coil cleaning.
Well, I've got an invoice in front of me right here where we paid them $2,700 for 2 days last month. And that
It's roughly-
that was not all the schools either.
Well, at Lincoln County High School, they only change them once every 2 months.
Well,
Everything
Lincoln
else is
County,
changed.
Yon Valley's not on here, or?
Yon Valley didn't have very many filters even when we are charged at Yon Valley.
Well, I know that the filter material, this, according to this, there's only one man. And he was here 2 days, for the second day, he wasn't here very long, because he was on a couple of schools on.
There's a lot of locations that it's going to take to, West Hamlin being one of them.
Who does the greasing and oiling of these motors and stuff?
It varies. They did the ones at Harts for me at no charge.
I mean, these other schools, they need oil and grease too, some of them.
Some of them.
I mean, I don't know why when we oil them change, oil them and grease, we can't change the filter. It's not that big a job to change the filter. I just think
It's
we're
true.
wasting money, but even if it's only $20,000 here, it's $20,000.
You know, we estimated that it would probably take approximately 2 weeks to change them countywide.
The thing of this, Dana, it actually isn't costing us anything labor, because we're paying these guys where they change filters or they're doing something else. In the last 2 months, there've been 65 work orders created over each month. That only comes to 13 work orders a month per man. And some of that's mowing grass, so they weren't even involved in that.
Well, some of the filters need to be changed after hours, West Hamlin and Hamlin in particular, because the filters are inside the classroom. So we've had issues by taking those filters out while kids are in the building, or staff. So some of them are done after hours. So, you know, I think it's a good contract. There is another company willing to bid against Charleston Filter. They're from Summersville. Most of the counties are doing it the way I'm doing it. The State Department of Facilities, they don't particularly care for the counties that are doing it themselves. They say that it's not being done the way it should be done, and they're not protecting the equipment the way they should protect it. So, but it can be done. We could buy the filter media and do it ourselves. But remember, Charleston Filter is a service company. They don't have to pay their people prevailing wage. They're not like doing renovations or providing the type of work that requires them to pay their people those large prevailing wage rates.
And this might be not really understanding all this. If you do, if we were to change our own, just how do this frame issues, do you still do that, or is that no longer, we doing it a different way?
Well, if you buy the, go back to buying the original filters, you would do away with the metal frames. They'd come and get them, and it won't cost us anything.
But it costs us much per year for the completed filters.
Right.
With the frames, I imagine it's collapsible, you put new media in and smash the frames back together and shove it in the opening.
That's why, if we were to,
Now, I think I can beat the $55,000. I think I can beat that to some degree, but I still think I'm gonna pay more than what I'm paying Charleston Filter to install and to provide the materials.
that's the 31,000.
That's the $31,473. That's what they're charging us a year to change, just change filters at all the stores.
And they maintain ownership of the frames.
They let us know if there's a belt that needs to be tightened up or there's a problem with the unit. But like I said, they were willing to grease the rooftop units at Harts this winter for me. They didn't charge me a dime.
Well, a question I have is there an opportunity then, if they're faced with potentially losing this contract with you, is there and it sounds like they're willing to work with you.
They are.
Sell the frames, sell the material. Is there an opportunity maybe to roll in some other preventative maintenance? Tell them, look, we're looking at cost effectiveness. Maybe if you would offer to do so much of this maintenance on these units for us. I don't know if there's a line, I don't know if there's a way you can do that, but, negotiation is an art. I don't know.
That's an option. I don't know how skilled his crew is in doing some of the repairs. I know.
Well, we don't want them
greasing
doing, greasing a unit.
Yes.
I don't know what's that
It's
involved.
pretty
Is it
simple.
a grease zerk and a grease gun? Stop when the grease flows out? I don't know. I just think it's gonna be I mean, if the cost to just change the filters is $31,000 a year, the cost to buy the cut fabric is $25,000. And this has to be done once a month in most of the schools, twice or once every other month in some of the schools.
Lincoln County. The rest of them are done once a month. Lincoln County has the air handlers that are inside the building. They don't get as dirty as quickly. The unit ventilators and the rooftop units get dirtier quicker, so that's the reason they're done once a month.
No offense to anyone that works for you, I don't know who those people are, but when you have a very defined, specific job like this, sometimes it's best to have someone that does that job constantly. And I don't know from a labor perspective,
It is.
could you change all these filters monthly or bi-monthly for $6,000 a year labor?
I don't think so.
I mean,
Well, you're gonna pay them anyway.
well, but not the overtime in the schools where they have to
Well,
be
these
changed
guys
after
are not
hours.
working after hours.
Well,
If they are, we're paying them time and a half.
that- I don't know, do you know those details? I mean, are they changing these filters after the schools are closed?
At West Hamlin and Hamlin, yes. The others, no.
And that's part of the contract price? We don't get charged a surcharge if we're doing that afterward?
Can you modify someone's daily work schedule?
Well, we have, I mean, like I said,
I don't mean permanently, but I'm given days or weeks.
we have changed the filters at all four of these schools at one time. Harts is the only school that we didn't go for at least a year. When the new school at Harts was built, they left us 3 months of filters. When those 3 months of filters were used up, then we started contracting with Charleston Filter. We didn't buy filters there, but we have at the other 3 locations, and we changed them for a year, but we only did one of them at a time. And it was difficult with the crew that we've got. It was difficult to do that and keep up with the other things going into school. And what worries me is that we have emergencies and we don't do them monthly, and we get priorities that we're working on, and we don't get to them as quickly as we should.
I don't think that if we have Joe Parsons to do it, I don't think he's gonna have an emergency to keep him from changing a filter. And it seems to me that the children are out for lunch quite a long time. Doesn't take me long to change my filter of mine. And I don't know why he couldn't change it during that time when they're out to lunch.
Well, Joe makes $20-some an hour, so if you want.
Back to my question there, though, can you not modify someone's work schedule from week to week as needed? Where they don't work but 8 hours in that day, you know, I start at noon and work till 8 or whatever, and do those type of things.
We could do it.
Is it permissible?
If the employee agrees to it, then we could do it. I don't know that I have any employees that would agree to
But
change
it's
the
change a
hours.
half hour?
No more than probably an hour. You can't change somebody's working hours.
Unless they agree to it.
No, not even if they agree to
Oh.
it.
I thought you could,
No,
if they
with
agreed
this
to it.
new, they have a set hour, and we start changing people's times that they
That's
can
why
come
we
in,
post,
someone
we
else
have to
would
post
say.
a time now.
Yes.
Oh.
Every job posting.
Yeah.
Well, that's new, I didn't know that.
Well, that's because you don't do it, and there's no reason to say, Dana, stop that.
Okay. I haven't got my hands smacked on that
Not for
yet.
that one.
Maybe I won't now that I know.
Well, that's the reason
I
I
didn't
was
know
asking
that.
the question, whether or not you could permit to do that.
But right now, let's get this, I think, we could buy the frames off Charleston Filter, $7,000 or $7,400. The frames that they've got in there.
We could, yes.
And that's all the cost that be. I mean, one time.
That's right.
And they're using cut fabric right now. And they're willing to furnish that to us for $24,000 or $25,000 a year. Well, I'm sure you can get it cheaper than that someplace else. But so that's $24,000 a year we'd be paying after the first year. Instead of 35 35 or 30, whatever you're saying, that's,
It's just that we're cutting back everywhere.
we're cutting
and-
teachers
And I don't think that, I'm not sure that all the other schools around us have someone to go in, like Joe does, to tell people to turn their lights off, and I'm sure they'll get back to him, but to come in, you know, it's.
Well,
we're
there's a
having
lot to
cut
do,
teachers.
and there's some that don't. It's,
And we've had the conversation.
I think this is like a lot of things are pros and cons to everything, so.
that's true. And it's not, it's more complicated than one would think, just changing a filter is. And there are lots of areas it's gonna take two people to do it.
Do we know of any other schools who have some energy managers?
I know Cabell's had them in the past, I know Boone's had them in the past.
But do they have them now?
see, now this there, where Lisa could get involved, they could hire a man or two to go around and change filters in several counties. They want to, join forces and.
We hear complaints, and, we've got to cut wherever we can.
I don't know of a surrounding county that's not, a surrounding county, that's not hiring a company to change the filters. Charleston Filter has the majority. I know they've got Cabell. I know they've got Canola. I'm pretty sure about Putnam, but I think somebody else does Logan County. There's 3 filter companies that does that type of work. There's one willing to bid against him. My understanding is that the other 2 companies don't invade each other's territory. They kind of have a.
We have a contract yearly. I've heard both yes and no on that.
Well, a purchase order is a contract.
I mean, do you issue that each year?
I issue it this year, since there was a lot of talk about the contract, I only issued it for 6 months. Because there was a lot of talk a year ago about us changing them or do something different, so I only did it for 6 months. Usually I do them for a year. I usually do the contract for a year.
How do you do it without them bidding on it?
Well, this goes back to an original bid that I did years ago, that the prices haven't changed. And I put in my bid specs when I bid a job that if it's a service type job, that if the prices don't change, we're happy with the service. Either party can not agree to the terms of the original bid, and we can rebid it at that point in time. We can rebid it right now for July 1st, as far as I'm concerned. Even though we've got a purchase order to take us to the end of June, we could rebid it right now and have the 2 companies that do this type work bid against each other. Might save a few bucks doing that. I don't think it's going to be a big difference. But there might be some savings there.
Or do you issue the July, 1st of July? Is that when you normally would do it?
Yes.
The year?
July 1 would be when I would do a purchase order for either 6 months or a year for next year. So if we're going to do them ourselves, of course, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't do a purchase order if you deem that we're going to change them ourselves.
If we do this ourselves, do we have a place where we can store these filters?
What I will try to do if we do them ourselves is I'll have a just-in-time inventory where I have a month of filters for the county delivered just in time to go change them. We'll have to store some because when you get 12 to a box, the numbers aren't always going to be exact, so we're going to have some we're going to have to store. We would probably store in that situation back here in the old welding shop if we end up doing that. Now, if we buy the cut material, of course, if we buy the material from Charleston Filter or buy the material from this other company that may be willing to do the same thing, then We won't have anything to store. We'll use what's delivered.
And are these delivered prices? Is that with them delivering once each month, or is that one delivery a year with everything you need?
No, that's delivering each month.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Of course, we can get everything in writing. I kind of need to know which way we're going to go before I actually put out a bid or get anything in writing. That's why I'm trying to provide you information on what we're paying and the different options. If we're going to buy pleated filters, then we would want to get samples of pleated filters from different companies and just price the pleated filters.
Well, that's what you're using right now, right?
No.
No, you're using.
We're using
that.
Charleston's filter media with the metal racks.
Yeah.
But we used the pleated filters, that's what we did. And one reason I was hesitant in going with Charleston filter, you get a 1-year warranty on your equipment. So at each school, except for Harts, that I've already mentioned, we changed the filters purposely so that if, say we had problems with some of the air handlers, or if we had problems with the unit ventilators, we didn't want the manufacturer to be able to say, well, you're not using the filter that is designed for this unit. So we didn't go there until the Harts school. We were comfortable enough by that time that there's enough counties doing the same thing we're doing, that we felt comfortable enough to change them for the 3 months that we had filters for and then move on with the Charleston filter. The others, we didn't feel comfortable doing that with, so we changed them for the first year. Put the exact pleated filter that should have been in the unit to begin with, to avoid any warranty issues or anything that they could try to get out of the warranty. Does that make sense? So that's why we know a little bit how long it takes and a little bit on how complicated it is. As we've done.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any suggestions? Would you like to see Dana get the quotes for these?
Well, I'd like to know what Risa, I thought, Trish, you mentioned that to Risa about, can we buy filters and materials through them?
Granger's.
Granger.
Granger is one of those vendors that has a discount, and it's a good discount on filters. I was shocked. Some things, the discount's been very minimal on equipment, things like that. But on filters, it was a substantial discount that we can buy filters through that national bid process.
This is not Granger's price here.
No, that is not Granger's price. I have looked at prices on their pleated filters, and they run pretty close to what that quote that you got there. Of course, those are price quotes on pleated filters that aren't delivered. We're gonna have to add 15–20% to those prices on that quote to get them delivered. But it gives you an idea to compare what we're paying Charleston Filter to change a filter and what we're going to have to pay for a pleated filter.
Yeah, why are we going to pleated filters when we're not using them now?
Can Granger supply a filter that will go in that if we were to buy the frames?
Yeah, they make it in a roll.
I mean,
They do.
Goes up to cap.
So I don't know about the unit ventilators, but I do know that they sell the filters for the 20x25, the 2s. I know they sell that. I don't know, I still need to look about the unit ventilators. The 10x72 by